Hey guys, how you doing? How are you doing? Welcome back to another live stream. It is the day before Christmas. It is Christmas Eve. So Merry Christmas to you guys. If you're joining me tonight, if you're watching the replay, Merry Christmas to you as well. If you're seeing this the following day, or if you're just seeing it later on tonight as we move into the Christmas holiday, if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you and a Happy New Year. But if you're jumping on with me, on the next live, you will definitely, I will definitely say it again, Happy New Year. So as I always do, I just want to check real quick to make sure I'm live. So I'm not just talking to myself on here in case you guys watch the video back. So like we always like to do. All right. And we are live. And all right, so I know most people probably will not join me tonight because it is Christmas Eve and we are either out getting our last minute shopping going on, or we're at home wrapping gifts, or cooking for this holiday season if we celebrate it. But nonetheless, let's jump into it. If you are joining me live tonight, please don't forget to say where you're from in the comments. Let me know that you're joining me tonight live, and we are going to jump into this particular live around what you should try to avoid. So basically, and when you guys are buying a home, when your home buyers trying to buy a home, there are several things that you might not see right away, right? Because you are in the midst of buying a home. There's so many things that goes into buying a home. You might have found a house. You're working with your agent, right? You found a house. You're putting down your earnest money deposit. Um, you're doing your due diligence, so you're getting your home inspection done, and then from there, different things are happening. Once you get past the home inspection part, the finance contingency is kind of in there as well. Your title underwriting, all this stuff is going on. So these are small things that go on in the midst of this. But what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about some things that you might not see right away as a homeowner, and we're actually taking actual stories of people who wrote these issues that kind of happened to them, or that are currently happening to them, and we're just going to read them out and then talk about what you could possibly do, or what the best scenario around it, and what you should never, or what you should try to avoid when buying a house. All right. So if you're joining us tonight, don't forget to join us in the comments. Let us know that you're here. If you're watching this video on a replay, please comment below. And if you are a new person on the channel, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video as well, because it helps to kind of push the video throughout the YouTube streets over here. And then also, don't forget to hit the notification bell too. And then once you hit the notification bell, click on it so then you can make sure that it alerts you when I go live over here on this channel. All right. So let's jump into this first scenario around a homeowner. They bought a house, and this is what they are currently saying. So it says, "Hi, does anyone have a connection to a real estate lawyer or someone I can speak for to a legal?" Oh, excuse me. Sorry, let's start again. "Hi, does anyone have connection to a real estate lawyer or someone I can speak to for legal advice in Georgia?" So this particular person is in the state of Georgia. It's a part of one of the Facebook groups I'm a part of. "I bought a house in July. The seller did not disclose that the basement floods. It is a finished basement. I'm getting 30 to 50,000 K quotes on repair. I cannot afford a lawyer. I cannot afford lawyer fees. There was no disclosure form in the contract. My realtor didn't ask for one, and now I'm not getting the help I need to go after sellers. I feel so stuck and stressed. I do not live in a flood zone. Water is coming in from the baseboards." All right, so this particular person, so again, we're talking about real scenarios, what's happening when it comes to home ownership and everything. And we're just going to say things to kind of avoid. What's going on, Lang? What's going on, Lang? Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining. If you have anything you want to say in the comments, join in the conversation. People have been coming in and out, so I don't know if something's going on with the reception, because I know on this end there's always something going on with the reception. But if you have anything to state in the comments as we go through these scenarios, and what I'm going to say could be probably the best thing for you to do if you're going through things like this. That's the purpose of this. So it's called, the video is called Real Estate Disasters, Things to Try to Avoid. But basically what we're doing is we're taking real life scenarios. So this is what people are currently going through, or they went through, and we're just going to talk around these scenarios so you can get more assistance when possibly purchasing a house. So I'll read this one more time in case you guys are just joining. Again, this is around real life scenarios in real estate. If you're joining us now on live, please put where you're joining us from in the comments. Join in the conversation. I always love people coming in and have a conversation. That's the purpose of doing these lives. So again, we're taking real life scenarios, and then we're going to talk around what you could possibly do or what you can try, how you can try to avoid something like this. So in this situation, this person is from the state of Georgia. This is I found this inside of one of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, and I responded to this situation. So this person says, "Hi, does anyone have connection to a real estate lawyer or someone I can speak to for legal assistance in Georgia? I bought a house in July. The seller did not disclose that the basement floods. It is a finished basement. I'm getting 30 to 50K quotes on repair. I cannot afford lawyer fees. There was not a disclosure form in the contract. My realtor didn't ask for one, and now I'm not getting the help that I need to go after the sellers. I feel so stuck and stressed. I do not live in a flood zone. Water is coming in from the baseboards." All right, so my first thing to say as I break this down, right? I always tell my clients when I'm working with buyers to say, and we're going to a seller, we're always going to try to ask for a seller's property disclosure, all right? So if you guys don't know, one thing about Georgia is that in Georgia, the state of Georgia, a seller's property disclosure is not required. So I'm going to read it to you guys real quick so you can see that in our state, in this state, but every state is different. Remember, every state is different, but this is something that you should be asking for from the seller of the house when you're buying a house. So if you're working with a real estate agent, or even if you're not working with a real estate agent, you should be asking a seller for this disclosure. So, and again, in the state of Georgia, seller's property disclosure is not required per se, right? So let's move this around so y'all can see this better, because this is not the best way to see. Okay, right. So I don't know if y'all guys can see what I was reading either. So let me know in the comments if you can see what I'm reading, so you guys don't. So I'm not just seeing it myself and you can't see it. So it says Georgia statute says Georgia home seller disclosure requirements. Georgia Georgia's statutes do not actually require sellers to fill out a disclosure form or otherwise take proactive steps to advise buyers of defects on the property. In fact, unlike in some states, so Georgia is a beware state, is a buyer's beware state. Georgia courts follow the ancient doctrine of caveat emptor, or let the buyer beware. When it comes to sales of real estate, buyers in Georgia are expected to look carefully at the property and hire inspectors in order to receive advance notice of issues defects. So that does not mean they can lie or I don't know how to say that word. Obfuscate. I don't know. Obfuscate. I don't know, you guys. Don't give me the line. I need to go back to one-on-one reading about your house's condition with legal impunity. I think I said that right. However, for one thing, buyers might simply insist as part of the deal that you agree to provide a set of written disclosures. So I just had both of those words, but don't charge the words to my head, not my heart. But anyway, so basically they're saying, like, in the state of Georgia, you're still required, the seller is still required to tell the truth. So if you come to the seller to buy a house in Georgia and you see that as you're walking in the house, you see that there's water damage in the ceiling, you ask the seller, hey, has the ceiling ever had any water damage or any water intrusion coming into the property? The seller cannot look up at the ceiling and say, no, it hasn't, when meanwhile you can see the brown spots in the ceiling. So typically, if you guys know, if water damage happened in houses, unless the seller's got it remediated and kind of fixed, you would look up at the ceiling or look wherever at in the house per se. You might see like a brown, dried out water stain spot if it's no longer leaking or water intrusion there. Or you might see some type of water leakage or moisture kind of coming in somewhere. So that's how you can kind of sometimes tell in regards to water damage or any type of water that had kind of entered the property. And so in the state of Georgia, the seller does not have to really do a seller disclosure. Every state is different. Georgia, again, is a buyer beware state. So in this situation with this particular person, as we're reading through these different scenarios that happen, this young lady is stating, or person is stating that her agent did not ask let me show you guys this again. Her agent did not ask for a seller's property disclosure. And in that case, the problem this is where it becomes a little sticky when you do not ask for a seller's property disclosure. Again, every state is different. In the state of Georgia, they are not required. However, we as a good agent in the state of Georgia, I always require that you get a seller's property disclosure because this allows for legalities in the future, right? So with her stating right here, she says there was not a disclosure form in the contract. My realtor didn't ask for one, and now I'm not getting the help I need to go after the sellers. And so this is where a problem could possibly come up. I'm not a lawyer, so if you guys want more details around this, you could ask the lawyer about this. But from my perspective, as a real estate agent, I would say typically when we go to the closing table and you're closing out a real estate transaction, the lawyer will say, so like in the state of Georgia, a survey is not required either, right? But it's good to get a survey on the property because you're buying not only the house, but you're buying the land in which the house sits on. So when you go to closing, the attorney will say, the closing attorney say, well, did you get a survey done? And the buyer say, no, I didn't get a survey done. They'll say like, well, you're stating here that you're okay without getting the survey done. You can't sue us later on if something happens, and you can't, sue so-called, say, the seller per se, really, because you decided that you didn't want to get a survey done. And being that Georgia is a buyer beware state, you kind of just let that whole part go as far as saying that you take, trying to figure out how to say this. That you decided that you didn't want to, get that stuff done or get a survey done, right? So with her not having this disclosure form in a contract, I'm not sure because I wasn't at her closing. And again, you should ask a real estate attorney to get more clarity around this. But from my experience, her not getting disclosure in this contract, what it's saying to me is that when she went to the closing table, when they went to the closing table, the attorney might have asked, like, do you have a seller's disclosure? Because typically what happens, I know on the buyer side, when I work with buyers, I'll send the disclosure over, like the documents over to the attorneys and all that stuff or whatever. And the attorney can say, well, you decided to not get a disclosure, a seller property disclosure, XYZ disclosure, you forfeit or you kind of waive that right per se, right? I don't know. It might be harder for her to kind of get some type of settlement in the situation because she didn't have a disclosure, which means to me, on my end, I would say that you kind of waived that disclosure. You allowed your realtor to make you feel comfortable not getting one. However, in the state of Georgia, let's look at how our disclosures are. So we have a couple of disclosures. However, these are the two main ones that we use. So in Georgia, you can use a seller's property disclosure, or you can use what's going on, Impress You Florals? What's going on, Eddie? How you doing? Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm on this Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas Eve to everyone in the comments that celebrated or that's watching tonight. We're just talking about some real estate scenarios and different things in regards to what we're trying to avoid if possible. So in the state of Georgia, as we go back into this, in the state of Georgia, we typically kind of see two property disclosures, right? He said, hope everyone is having a wonderful holiday week. Yes, hope everyone is having a wonderful holiday week. I'm stumbling over my words. What's going on, MHOA? How you doing, man? So in Georgia, we typically see two property disclosures, right? We see let's see, I'm gonna show you guys the first one. So this is a homeowner occupied disclosure. So if you're a homeowner occupying a property, we typically want you guys to fill out something like this to provide to the buyer. And most agents will ask for, let me make this a little bigger, for this disclosure. It's always wise to make sure you have a property disclosure. You want to get as much information as you can. He said, no work till January 2nd. That's what's good. Relax. Yes, relax for this holiday vacation. Relaxing, exactly. You gotta relax. Just relax. Take it easy. But in Georgia, you would see, I'm not sure how other states work. So if there's anyone in here that's a realtor from another state, I don't know how your disclosures look. This is what our disclosures look like in the state of Georgia. So these disclosures are doctored up by the lawyers that work for the Georgia, for, what is it called? Jesus, sorry, I'm going blank. For the associations, the realtor associations, they doctor up these contracts for us. And sometimes you'll see some actual real estate brokerages, they'll have their own type of disclosure forms, so that they create themselves. But this is the one that I typically use. So if a seller is actually a homeowner occupier who lives in the house, I would then have them fill out this form, or as if I'm going with a buyer, I'll ask for this particular form. So this just states that it's just breaking down everything as far as the general, what year was the main residential dwelling constructed, is the property vacant. You want to kind of understand about the covenants, the fees and assessment, because we're going to get into this as well, because there's another situation in regards to HOAs. So we're going to talk about these different situations, that's something that you can try to avoid if you can. Also, if a property is built prior to 1978, you want to make sure that if there's like a lead-based paint disclosure. But we're just going to scroll through this real quick because we're kind of talking about this person's situation in regards to them not getting a disclosure. Right here it says structural items, additions, and alterations. So if there's any like foundation situations, any type of reinforcements, anything in regards to that structure of the house system. So you want to make sure your HVAC system, so that's your heating, ventilation, AC type of units. You want to pray that they're newer, and if they're a little older, that they're serviced, that they're working correctly. You want to kind of understand all of that. How about like sewer and the plumbing? You want to understand the water heater, the years. So this kind of breaks up everything from someone and like the roof and everything, how many years the dwelling of roofs are, any flooding in the house, any intrusion, any moisture, soil, termites. So in the state of Georgia, if you guys don't know, we are the second, we are the, from Florida, Florida's number one, we're the second state that has a lot of termites. So we want to make sure we know about that. And typically down here in the state of Georgia, even before, if you're financing your property, the lender will not let you close without a termite clearance letter. So you want to get that letter as well. And he said it's always good to get property disclosure, but it also may help to say hello to a neighbor because they usually disclose more than the seller. I agree, Eddie. You want to like talk to neighbors. I always do that too. I ask, so the reason why I'm doing this live and talking about things to try to avoid is because, like I said, outside of these scenarios that we're reading tonight from current buyers or recent buyers, and what they're kind of going through, I had a buyer in a similar situation, a property that we were under contract for. You know, again, I'm a realtor. I can advocate, I can educate, but I can't tell you what to do at the end of the day. I did suggest to this buyer, like, you shouldn't buy this house as a money pit, but again, the whole thing is, what do you want to do at the end of the day, right? I can just advocate and educate. That's all I can do. She decided she still wanted to put an offer in. So what we did, there was actually two neighbors that was walking the neighborhood, and we stopped. We asked them about the neighborhood, asked them if they had heard anything about the house. Because this house, when we walked inside, you can tell that there was obviously some water damage done to the house. The seller's property disclosure did disclose that 2 years ago the pipes had burst, and we can see like the patchman work in which they did in the house. So what we did is, because it was a townhouse unit, we asked the person, the guy actually came home that lived right next door in the townhouse unit. And because the home inspector said there was some moisture in the ground still, we asked, and it was coming from a certain wall. So we asked the neighbor next door that lived in the townhouse, hey, did you, we said, hey, did you experience any water or moisture coming through the walls at one point? Because we know that a pipe had bursted and everything. They had said they didn't experience any of that moisture on that side and on the other side. So yeah, like you said, it's always good to ask anyone around, a neighbor, because especially someone that lived there for a long time, because trust and believe, these people are going to tell you. I've been in several situations where I asked the neighbors, and there was another situation I had. I was actually helping out a friend. He was out of town, and he asked me to go sit in for a home inspection for him, for his clients, and they were purchasing his house, and there was a young lady actually walking down the street, and I stopped her, and she talked to me about the house and the neighborhood. And it was so funny, and it was ironic that she actually used to rent this house back in the day. So it does make a difference to ask like neighbors and everything. So I agree with you, Eddie. Outside of the disclosure you might get, he said, yep, I knew of a neighbor's house where the installation was dead roaches. House is now scheduled for demo. Wow, that is disgusting. Dead roaches. Wow. Ew. Funny how a 30-year roof used to last 20 years in the South. Now insurance companies say they only last 10 years. Exactly. It's only 10 years now in the South, 10 to 15 years, depending on what insurance company you go with, but most of them are saying 10. So after 10, it's kind of hard to get home insurance. And that's something we're going to talk about when I bring an insurance agent on come in January. We're going to try to get into some of the nitty gritty as far as home insurance around that. And then also this Sunday, we'll actually be back on with the lender that we had on last time, Demetrius. So if you guys have any other questions around lending, anything, please jump back on Sunday at regular time, 6:30, so we can get into that. Yes, exactly, Lang. Wow. So yeah, so this is one of the disclosures you want to kind of get. Also on this disclosure, it's like any other hidden defects. Then it'll come down here and it'll actually tell you too what's the owner kind of leaving with the property. So I've seen, hey, what's going on, Von? Am I saying it right? Is it Von Shay, Miko? Harry, Merry Christmas to you as well. I don't want to mess up your name, so if I'm saying it wrong, put it in the comments to help me pronounce it right. We're basically just talking about tonight. So again, if you're just joining, I know people are coming on and going off. If you're just joining, we're talking about scenarios and things to try to avoid when you're buying a house, or if you are a current homeowner, what you could possibly do going forward. So in this scenario, it was a person who bought a house in the state of Georgia, because I'm a part of a lot of these Georgia Facebook groups, and her agent didn't ask for a seller's property disclosure when she bought the house. And so she's saying she had and basically water coming in through the baseboards of her finished basement. And so she's trying to figure out what to do now, or he or she, I'm not sure, trying to figure out what to do. So I'm just kind of going through the state of Georgia. Every state is different, of course. Again, in the state of Georgia, it's not required to actually get a physical seller's property disclosure. A verbal disclosure works. However, as a good realtor, when you're using one, you always want to try to get a property seller's disclosure. So if it's a homeowner occupier, this is something that we kind of see. And right here, this kind of shows you everything that the homeowner is leaving with the house. So you want to just go through this, meticulously look, make sure everything's checked off that they're leaving. And then right here, because I worked with a seller too, but they were like, I'm not leaving the refrigerator. So we made it clear down here what they're not leaving. And, you just read it. You be honest, you be open, and things like that. So that's one of the disclosures. So that's property. That's if the property if there's a homeowner occupying a property. And then in the state of Georgia, if you're an investor, I always tell people to get this disclosure from investors. Some investors, they'll fill it out, even though it's not that much of a information around this disclosure, but it's good to have it just so you have a disclosure. So this is a seller's disclosure of latent defects and fixtures checklist. So this is basically saying, like, most of investors will say, check here, say seller never lived on the property. It says seller hereby discloses the known latent defects. Most of them will say non-known latent defects. I believe that if you are an investor of a property, and if your tenant, if anything happens to bust in the property, water situation, ventilation situation, your systems are down, something went wrong in the property. But most of them, most of them are check off the no known latent defects one, which I don't believe. I feel like every investor, what's going on. If a tenant calls you, like even if they call the management company, you're going to know what's going on. But anyway, you'll keep going down with the investors do. They'll throw this one out, and you'll get back here to this these fixture lists, checklist right here. So you want to make sure everything's checked off with the disclosure, and then the same thing here, any items need repair. So that's kind of your down here in the state of Georgia. That is your investor part, quote unquote, latent defects disclosure. And then when we go back to what I had told the young lady, because I keep saying young lady, I think I'm so used to working, because I work with a lot of women. A lot of women actually buy houses, you guys. I'm pretty sure you probably know that. So I always say young lady, because I work with a lot of women. But like this person said, in regards to them not having this disclosure, in the state of Georgia, we're a buyers beware state. So when you go to the attorney's office, they'll start telling you, like, well, you didn't do this. If you didn't do this, you didn't do this, blah, 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 like those different things. So I don't know her recourse here. Obviously, there probably was something the matter with the house. This obviously, to my knowledge, from what I'm reading, probably was fix and flip. They didn't really go and check on any type of foundation structural issues here in this situation. And so what I had told her too, in regards to this, I said, hey, maybe you want to, what I told them is, like, maybe you want to also possibly get a clue report. So if you guys don't know what a clue report is, because this person did not have a seller's disclosure and was looking for some type of recourse, I was like, maybe you can go and try to get a clue report. So a clue report is something that insurance companies kind of do. So it says the Clue Report is a great tool to help real estate agents and buyers identify potential insurance liabilities in the house so they can make informed decisions before making an offer. And this Clue Report guide, learn how Clue Reports are, learn what Clue Reports are, how to get one, and how they can help with real estate purchase decisions. So a Clue Report, in short, we'll go through it, but basically it's just any type of knowledge, and I think it's like the past 7 years as far as anything that happened on the property. So as you guys know, when you make an insurance claim, the claim stays with the property. It travels with the property, right? And the homeowner too, it'll attach to them as well, but it'll also stay with the property. So it says, what are Clue Reports? A comprehensive loss underwriting exchange Clue report contains detailed information regarding home insurance claims on particular property within the past 7 years. So 7 years. These claims information reports are generated by a consumer reporting agency called LexisNexis. The agency maintains a comprehensive database of consumer claims information reports submitted by the insurance companies that help insurers when they're underwriting a policy. So basically, these are the claims and what someone, if you have home insurance and you decide, like, if you had water damage in the basement and you put a claim and get that water damage fixed, the insurance companies are then reporting these claims to this particular consumer agency, and that's how any insurancer can kind of grab this information. So like, even if you're buying a house and you're looking for insurance as a buyer for a particular house, that insurance company that you decide to use to buy the house, you can say, hey, is there a way I can get a Clue report for this particular property? Or you can actually go through LexisNexis and get it as well. So it says, what do Clue reports include? Along with homeowner's name, personal details, and policy number, a Clue report shows the date, type of loss, and the amount the insurance company paid the policyholder for a claim. The report may also include general details about insurance providers and claims. It says, why Clue reports matter in real estate transactions. Clue reports can provide insight into potential problems within the property. Insurance payouts due to water damage, foundation troubles, and even mold may cause buyers to pause and reconsider the property. So that's why, it's important. It says how to access a Clue report right here. It says, while Clue reports are primarily for insurers, homeowners can access a copy of their property Clue report for free. Thanks to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, homeowners can request a copy of their Clue report from LexisNexis by calling 1-866-312-8076 or by visiting consumer.risk.lexisnexis.com. It says real estate agents and buyers cannot access Clue reports for properties they are interested in. However, they can ask the seller for a copy of or make an offer contingent on a Clue report. So basically what they're saying is that real estate agent and buyer cannot access Clue reports for properties they are interested in. So we can't access, you guys can access it, we can't access it. However, you can ask the seller for a copy or make an offer contingent on a clean Clue report. So it's kind of tricky, but you can still get a Clue report. You just gotta know how to basically, I would say, if you're under contract with that property, I would just say I would then in turn reach out to like your insurance provider, ask questions around how you can obtain a Clue report since you have an offer in place. What's the best route to kind of take on and see what they say. But yeah, so I had advised the young lady, because she owns the house now, so she can obtain her own Clue report. So I had advised this particular person in regards to this to get a Clue report, just to see if there was any type of water damage prior to buying a house. Because if so, then that's almost like, to me, that's fraud. That's you're lying about any possible damage or repairs done to the house. But nonetheless, let's move on, because I think I took too long with that. Let me know your thoughts, what you guys are feeling in the comments. And we're going to keep on moving, because I feel like I went so long and we got a little bit more to go through. So I don't keep y'all here all night, because I know it's the Christmas holidays. Let me know what you guys are feeling in the comments. All right, so the next scenario where we're going to kind of go into is around, let me see. And I saw that I found very interesting as well was the scenario around, let's see which one we should go to. It says, let's say buyer. It was a person who had this, but that I found interesting. I don't know if y'all can see this, because I can barely see it. Let me see. Can I make this bigger? I don't know. Let me see. I can't make it bigger. Hopefully you guys see it. If not, I'll just read it to you guys. I don't know if you can see it. Let me know if you can see it in the comments or not, but I'll read it. So this says, buyer wants to move in before closing on house. It says, we have been going through a back and forth trying to sell my deceased parents' estate. It is a double wide mobile home on 1 acre of land selling for about $150,000, give or take. Just so you know, I'm not dealing with some mansion in LA. We got a good offer on the house, but have spent the last 4 weeks going back and forth on surveys, inspections, etc., etc. We are getting really burnt out and ready to be done with this. We've been clearing out the house for almost a year because I don't live in the city and had to travel there. The buyers have to move out of their house Friday, June 9th. I just got an email from our real estate agent with this info. I just wanted to pass this along. Closing might be delayed until Monday. How do you feel about giving the buyers access to move in on Friday? The buyer's agent has informed me that they have to be out of the rental property by Friday. Please see the attached letter from the mortgage company. So I guess they had a mortgage company attached to the letter. The letter from the mortgage company explains that there was a delay verifying funds from the buyer's 401k, but that everything is now verified and good to go. They have sent this to the underwriter as a rush item, but are warning me that it may take no later than on Monday to complete. The buyers are asking to move into the house this Friday, June 9th, due to their situation with their current property where they have to be out by Friday. I know this is a gamble that will probably work out, but I keep thinking of the worst case scenarios. So it keeps going on, blah, blah. So anyway, sorry, you guys, I should have brought my water over here coughing. But anyway, my suggestion in this opinion, I don't know what you guys feel. Let me know in the comments, or if you're watching this in replay, let me know your thoughts. But my suggestion is I would never allow a buyer to move into a house without us going to closing. I always put on our contracts when I'm working with a buyer or a seller, I always put I always say what else put is escrow at closing or close at escrow, something like that. I put basically this thing that you are able to exchange per se keys and all these things at closing. Once we get to closing, you can then get in the property. I don't think it's always great, and I know people fall into hard situations, and I've had actually a buyer that this happened to where the seller had 2 payoffs that they had to complete. They had 2 liens that they needed to pay off outside of the mortgage payoff, which is a lien on the house as well. And because of that, unfortunately, I was on the buyer side. They were trying to buy this house. My buyers, they had to rent a hotel, for 2 days. It sucks because it is money out of their pocket, and it was no fault of their own in this situation because the seller situation that they were still trying to get clear through the mortgage company, the payoffs. But I just didn't want to be. I don't like when people kind of take property, like move in property before the close, and I don't like when people stay after closing. Because sometimes the sellers will say, "Hey, can I extend my close? I'm gonna need 2 weeks to move out or a month to move out after closing." I'm like, no, because what I always tell people is like, you don't know what can happen in between that time. If someone moves in early on the buyer's side and the house hasn't closed, you don't know. If I decide to go into the house, light a candle, and then I'm just being, I'm not being very, I should say, I don't want to say I don't want to say negligent. That makes sense. I'm not being very mindful, right? I walk in the room and I actually hit the candle. The candle falls on the carpet or whatever, and it burns up the house. Now the house is burned up. If I'm the seller, I have yet to sell the house, but yet the buyer just burned up the house. Or vice versa. If I'm a person that bought the house and the seller agrees to stay in the house longer, and the situation happens then it's burnt. Like, you don't know what can happen. So I would never suggest this. I don't know what you guys feel in the comments, or if you're watching this video back, let me know what you feel. Would you should suggest that the seller should let this buyer move into the house early, or do I always say it's not trying to be mean-spirited per se, but it's like, hey, I would just talk to the buyers like, I understand, you guys moved out of your house. You have nowhere to currently go, but is there a way that maybe possibly run a hotel? Can you possibly do an Airbnb for a day or two? It's just, It's the weekend. It's the Saturday and Sunday. Everything will be clear on Monday. Do you have any relatives locally in the area? Is there a way that you can stay with them? Because you don't want to put yourself in a situation because you don't know what can happen. Things happen, y'all. Things happen. So that's this scenario. Let me know your thoughts around this scenario. Again, these are things that you should try to avoid when buying real estate, you guys. Do not let these people move in your house early. All right, so let's go on to the next one. Let me know your thoughts, you guys, in the comments. If you're watching, don't be scared to comment. Let me know your thoughts. Let's go into, so this next one is about, so these are all, again, like I said, these are situations that have happened. So let's go into the walkthrough. So this is another situation I saw. So this is called floor was damaged between final walkthrough and closing. Seller is blaming the neighbor. Okay, so as you guys all know, when you buy a house, you want to do a final walkthrough right before closing. What I always tell people on the buyer side, I typically like to do our final walkthrough the day of the closing. And the reason why I do it the day of the closing, literally an hour or two before said closing, is because I hope and I pray that within an hour that we left the house to go over to the closing, that nothing happens between that time with the house or anything occurs. However, if we do a walkthrough a day before or a day before the day, and then we just trust it and we go to closing, we don't know what happened on the day of the as far as the house, right? So that's how I do business. Every realtor is different. Every person is different. That's just how I do business. So right here it says floor was damaged between final walkthrough and closing. Seller is blaming the neighbor. It says neighbor damaged our floor the day before we closed. Technically, it was still the seller's floor when they damaged it. The sellers allowed them in the house to remove a piece of furniture. I'll try to keep this short. We bought a house and had the final walkthrough Monday, the day before closing Tuesday. Everything looked good. The next morning, we went to closing, then immediately drove to the home where we found a huge scratch, 20 to 30 feet on the hardwood floor. When we reached out to the seller via our respective agents, and we were informed that the seller had let their neighbor, now our neighbor, come into the home that evening prior to closing to take a piece of furniture. Note, this furniture item was still in place during the walkthrough, and the seller mentioned someone was coming by to take it, but it didn't occur to us they would carelessly damage the house as they were removing it. I guess we were being naive in hindsight. My wife and I feel that regardless of who's actually caused the damage, it was ultimately the seller's responsibility. So any uncomfortable interaction between getting it fixed should ultimately be between the seller and the neighbor. Here's where it gets a little complicated though. The neighbor has agreed to handle the repair, but only under specific conditions. The neighbor knows a hardwood guy that owes him a favor. Hence, we highly suspect little to no money will actually exchange hands. We never wanted to interact on this matter directly with the neighbor. Seems like a crappy way to start a relationship, no? But after getting stonewalled from the seller, we reluctantly attempted to broker a compromise. We got the quotes from some trusted contractors, $1,000, and presented to the neighbor that this is who we feel comfortable doing the repair. They refused. I should also point out their guy is not licensed or insured. All right, so basically, like I said again, you don't know what can happen before you buy the house if you're on the buyer side. I always say it's great to go and do a walkthrough prior to closing the day of, not the day before. Again, most people will go with their agents. The agents might suggest, let's go to the house the day before prior to closing to do the walkthrough. I always tell my clients, hey, we're closing at 10 o'clock in the morning. You need to get up by 8. If we're closing at 11, you need to get up by 9. And let's go to walk through this house an hour beforehand. I don't particularly do the day before walkthroughs. I do the day of walkthroughs. Again, it's how you decide to do your things, but things like this could happen. The day, what he said we did the final walkthrough Monday, the day before closing Tuesday, everything looked good. And then the next morning we went to closing. So the sellers from there, they still must have had some furniture in the house. The neighbors and them decided to remove the furniture. They just drugged obviously the furniture through the hardwood floor, the big gash in the floor. So now the seller's like, well, we closed. It's your responsibility now, even though they feel like it was the seller's responsibility because it happened before they closed. However, technically, unfortunately, it's your responsibility now as the buyer because you own said property, and none of that was disclosed. You didn't see it prior to going to closing, so you couldn't even mention it. You couldn't even bring it up. And it's the reason why I always think it's great to do a walkthrough prior to closing on the day of. So if you find anything, if possible, you can kind of disclose it and say contract. And then from here, if the seller says no, they don't want to do it, you can say, hey, can you give me some respectable closing costs or money set for X, Y, and Z? If they say no, it then becomes you as a buyer. If you want to terminate, you can. Of course, it would suck because you might lose your earnest money depending on the situation, but you could also kind of be able to possibly negotiate any type of thing that happened between then and that closing. But yeah, so let me know your how you feel about this scenario down in the comments below, and let's move on to the next thing. So again, this live is about things to try to avoid when buying real estate. So again, our first situation was in regards to the person not getting the seller's disclosure. So if you're depending on which state you're in the state of Georgia, this is the buyer beware state. So you want to make sure you do get disclosure legal. So for legal purposes. The second thing was about what was the second thing about? I forget now. The second thing was about the buyers moving in. So I would never suggest that a buyer should move in before closing, or you should allow a seller to stay in the house after closing. And then this situation is doing a walkthrough. I would suggest if you can do it the day of closing, an hour beforehand, instead of the day before. All right. So these are things to try to avoid maybe possibly something happening. This is what I would say, but everybody's situation is different. All right. So let's move it along. If you guys have anything to say, please talk to me in the comments. But all right, let's move on to the next one, which is about this one right here. So this one I found interesting. Let me know how you guys, if you can see this. So this one is around condo situation. So I'm guessing when she said review condo docs, I'm guessing she means like the HOAs, the CCRs, the CCRs, and what is it? It's a lot. It's a lot of real estate, you guys. It's a lot of real estate. I'm trying to remember the other stuff, like the articles of incorporation, all those things. So she probably read those articles. So it says, review condo docs and children aren't allowed. I'm under contract on a condo purchase in Florida. I just got the docs. The CCR very clearly states that children under 16 aren't allowed to live there permanently. I have shared custody of my 11-year-old, and that an owner can't sell to a buyer with the children under 16. This is not a 55 plus community. Clearly, this is a breach of the Fair Housing Act and unenforceable, but I feel like it's also a clear indication of what the desire of the community is. I'm pretty sure I should bail, but I really like this condo thoughts. So in this situation, I don't believe that this is considered part of the Fair Housing Act. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to show you guys what the Fair Housing Act entails. And I don't believe, well, I know it doesn't entail anything around age. So what she's kind of stating is basically saying that, hey, this is basically discriminatory under the Fair Housing Act, but it's actually not considered a Fair Housing Act situation. So let's kind of dive into a little bit about what the Fair Housing Act is. So it has housing discrimination under the Fair Housing Act. It says Fair Housing Act protects people from discrimination when they are renting or buying a home, getting a mortgage, seeking housing assistance, or engaging in other housing-related activities. Additional protections apply to federally assisted housing. And it says learn more about the Fair Housing Act and read examples below. Oh, people say Merry Christmas to me. Well, that's nice. I have to answer when I'm finished. So it says who is protected. So the Fair Housing Act, Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing because of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, identity. It says including gender identity and sexual orientation, familial status, and disability. And it says right here, it says what types of housing are covered. The Fair Housing Act covers most housing and very limited circumstances. The Act exempts owner-occupied buildings with no more than 4 units, single-family houses sold or rented by the owner without the use of an agent, and housing operated by religious organizations and private clubs that limit occupancy to members. And then We'll scroll down some more, and we'll get into what is prohibited in the sale and rental of housing. It says it is illegal discrimination to take any of the following actions because of race, color, religion, sex, disability, familiar status, or national origin. It says refuse to rent or sell, refuse to negotiate for housing, otherwise making housing unavailable. So they're basically saying like against, as far as when the Fair Housing Act, it is against you as a person who sells that property or a person who rents that property to discriminate along these lines, these particular points right here: race, color, religion, sex, disability, familiar status, and or national origin. And then it kind of breaks down in regards to all these situations. Like you cannot discriminate, like you can't like harass a person, evict a tenant or a tenant's guest, impose different sales prices or rental restrictions. So rental charges for sale. So nowhere in this, unless I'm wrong, and if someone is watching this on playback, or if you're here today, if I'm wrong, nowhere in regards to the Fair Housing Act does it implicate anything in regards to the age. So in this situation with this person, let's bring this back up on the screen. What they said they really like the condo, right? At the end of the day, I guess it becomes a decision. Do you want the condo so bad, or do you want your child to live with you? Unfortunately, it's not a breach in the Fair Housing Act. It's always great when you guys are going under contract as a buyer to ask the buyer's agent to get the CCRs, which is the covenants. Was it the covenant conditions and restrictions? Sorry, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, which is part has like bylaws in it. All those things in regards to the HOA, whether you're getting a condo, whether you're in a townhouse community that has an HOA, whether you're in a single family community that has an HOA, kind of see what things are restricted or what things that have different laws per se around, and as far as not actual laws, but the laws that to abide by in this subdivision, their bylaws, right? So in this situation, the lady or the man, I don't know who this is again, is saying that they read the CCR, and the CCR clearly says that the children under 16 are allowed to live there permanently. She says not 55 plus community. However, with 55 plus communities, unless things have changed, I believe that as long as one person is 55 plus living in said community, it allows for other people that are not 55 plus to live in a home, as long as one person lives in the home that is 55 plus. But things change. I have to go back and read up on my things, but I believe that's how it typically goes. So in this situation, she's talking about, should she bail or should she get the condo? What do you guys think? Do you think she should bail? Should she get the condo? I would say you have a child. You're getting, you already know the CCR reads that you're not allowed to have children there stay with you permanently under 16 years old. You have an 11-year-old child. You clearly notice before getting to the closing table, if you're in your due diligence stage, you can try to terminate so you can get your earnest money back before kind of getting out of that stage and kind of compromising that. I'm not sure how the Florida real estate market works when it comes to their documents and their contracts down there, because I'm here in Georgia. But I would definitely tell the person to get out of condo. So this thing to, again, try to be aware of when buying real estate. Get the CCRs, get those HOA documents prior to getting out of due diligence so you can try to read it. So if you see anything that kind of is like, oh, I don't know, I can't do this, they want me to do this, or I can't do this, or I can't do that, I would definitely say read those documents and get your agent to get those if you're going into an HOA community. All right, so now let's get out of here. And we're going to go to, we're almost done, y'all. I appreciate everybody joining me tonight. Again, if you are joining, Merry Christmas Eve to you guys. Merry Christmas to tomorrow if you celebrate the holidays. If you don't, happy, I guess happy what? Festive season. I don't know. I don't know what to say, but I appreciate you guys kind of tuning in tonight, because I know it's like a last minute live or something special. Also, let me know. I was thinking about trying to do 2 lives a week. I definitely like Sundays. I was trying to think about another day that might be good to do it, because typically we want to kind of do 2 videos on the channel a week, whether it be a live, maybe one live, drop a video, but it's kind of hard to be editing all these videos, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. All right, so now let's go into another HOA situation, and then we're gonna get out of here for the night. And we're gonna hit this. So I wanted to show y'all a little bit what the CCRs kind of look like too. So I'll take somebody that one of my clients, I have their CCR still, and I'll show you what it kind of looks like. All right, so let's go to this last one. So this is another one about HOA. I know you guys have been, I don't know if you guys bought, if anyone has bought an HOA that's currently joining us tonight, or if you're watching the replay, if you bought in the HOA community, put it below. Let us know, and let us know how it's going, because there are pros and there are cons to HOAs, right? Hey, uh-oh. Let me just say Merry Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve, Lang. Merry Christmas Eve. I feel like I'm talking to myself. I'm like, I love you guys, go back and forth in the comments. I feel like I'm by myself chatting, but I appreciate you guys joining me, though. I do appreciate it. Hopefully you guys are learning, getting more information, more insights. So when you're buying a house, these are different things you can kind of try to avoid, issues that if you can catch them beforehand. Like I always say, I like to be proactive, not reactive. So like when I knew that my one buyer wanted to put a house, she wanted to put an offer in on a house that had a 20-year roof, and she really wanted to do it. And I knew that was going to be a problem nowadays. Was the insurance? Instead of being reactive, I was proactive, and I actually went and got I went out and I got some roof estimates, because like at the end of the day, let's see how much this costs. Let's try to ask the seller if they would give her closing costs that can equate to these roofs, the amount of how much the roof would cost to get fixed. Let's be proactive, not reactive. We appreciate you and educating us. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate everybody, especially on this holiday evening. But yeah, so this is another scenario. So we got 2 more scenarios around HOAs, and then we are going to be out of here. And hopefully these are some tips again that will help you when buying a house. So it says condos in South Florida. I don't know who's joining me, from Florida, but I'm pretty sure you guys, if you are, and if you live in a condo, you might be experiencing this due to the Surfside condo collapse in Miami, Florida. But it says, so there's a lot of things that's kind of going on with condos and stuff like that. So it says, been looking at condos in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale. What's going on, Lauren? What's going on? What's going on? We are over here having a conversation tonight about real estate disasters. We appreciate you joining us, Lauren. Happy Merry Christmas Eve if you celebrate. It says, looking at condos in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Pompano. I don't know. Boca. I'm seeing some condos that look very inexpensive, but plus an HOA, of course. After doing some research, I saw that people are selling their condos due to assessments. Was curious if this was true. Is buying a cheaper condo in South Florida a bad idea? Is there anything that could protect someone from all these assessments that condos put on you? I heard insurance doesn't cover unless it's due to a natural disaster, but I'm seeing something called loss assessment coverage. Would love to know everyone's opinion and recommendation. So this person out here says, I'm in WPB, and our condo has been doing a lot of assessments and raised the dues quite a bit. A lot of this stemmed from the Surfside condo collapse in Miami. There were new laws put in place that require a certain amount in reserves. So all the COAs that artificially keep their dues low in the past are now raising them and screwing the current owners. Plus, it seems that they're all eager to fix issues they normally wouldn't have ignored to not end up in the same boat as the Surfside. So in regards to condos, so I'm really going to touch on condos here because this is around condos. And this is just, again, some things to try to avoid up front if you can, right? I understand sometimes condos are cheaper than buying houses nowadays. So shoot, depending on where you're buying a condo at, some condos is more expensive than a single family house. I'm going to be honest. But in this case, if you were to find a condo that was cheaper than a single family house and you feel like you can get into it, we do know that some of these condos will have an excessive or kind of larger HOA amount, right? Monthly pay. And because of you're in a building per se, the assessment might be a little bit more as far as getting a roof repaired, getting any type of structural damage to the building repair. So they're going to try to kind of collect more reserves per se from you for any of those things, so they can put that aside in case things need to get fixed in the building. And let's just say, and I always say that it's great to talk to the HOA if you can get a lot of information around this. In fact, let's see real quick. That's going to take too long. I was going to pull up a community association disclosure situation, but that's going to take longer. But anyway, you should definitely ask your realtor when the buyer side to get you a community association disclosure agreement. Inside that agreement, it'll also state there. Well, I know in Georgia, every state is different, but in Georgia, it'll state that it'll say like any current, like recent special assessments coming up. So in this situation, this person is asking about special assessments. It'll ask if any recent special assessments are coming up. What would be the buyer's amount if they had to pay for said special assessments, and they'll kind of detail that in the documents. And so you also want to know that. So what I do is I like to, if I know a buyer is buying into an HOA subdivision, if I can get a hold of the HOA. So some HOAs down here in Georgia are a little funny. Some of them, because I had a situation happen when I was helping a buyer where I called the HOA and the HOA is like, well, you're not the homeowner, so we can't give you the information. I'm like, what? I'm like, I have a buyer trying to buy some property. We need to know information. The homeowner provided this document, but I just want to get clarity around it, especially the special assessments, because I just need to know, are there any special assessments coming up? And if so, how much would the buyer possibly have to pay into those special assessments? Because after you buy the property, this is your property now. So if no one discloses that these special assessments are to be had within the next month or two, you don't know. So in this situation, these condos in Florida, what people have been going through, and I don't know if you guys know, but they have been hitting them with these large bills of special assessments. So it's like, okay, there's, let's just say 100 units in the building. The roof cost is $5 million to get repaired. I don't know. I'm just exaggerating on the roof. It's probably cheaper than that. Of course, maybe like $1 million or something. I don't know. Or 500,000. Let's say the roof is $1 million to get repaired. We have basically gone through all the reserves. We need some more money to repair this roof or any structural situation in the building. We're going to now assess every person in the building $100,000 to pay out of their pocket for these special assessments to complete these repairs. So you want to know what the special assessment is. You want to be sure, because also with the condo situation too, you want to understand the insurance situation. So now with this whole Surfside situation in the Miami, Florida area, you want to make sure the master insurance policy is up to date, and that all the requirements are met in regards to like for the HOA, the lender, and all that stuff. So you want to get like all this information, especially buying a condo. You want to get these details, right? And there's so much more to get. You should ask your agent, okay, I'm getting this condo. Let's just get clarity around everything in regards to this HOA. All right. So let's kind of touch real quick so you guys know what a special assessment is. Then we'll hit on this last thing. Again, thank you guys for joining me. I appreciate it on this Christmas Eve. You could be anywhere, but you're on here. All right, so here we go real quick where special assessments are. It says, what is an HOA special assessment? HOA special assessments are extra unusual fees that your HOA board may charge you under certain conditions. The board usually levies these costs only in emergencies such as unexpected large-scale damages. Special assessments can be charged in most neighborhoods under HOA restriction covenants. You are subject to special assessments if you are a homeowner living in an HOA governed community, not just if you're in a condo, not if you're just a condo owner. So that's what I was trying to make clarity around. Like, it just doesn't happen in condos. That's why I said with my buyer that I had, we were getting a townhouse community, and I still want to know what their special assessments, because this is something like we want to know in case something to foresee. Again, the goal is to be proactive, not reactive, you guys. So if you're working with a realtor and you're buying something, every state is different. Again, every state is different, right? In real estate, every law is different, situations are different. If you're working with your agent, you're going buying to an HOA, let's be proactive, let's not be reactive, okay? And again, we don't fault your agent because we can't foresee everything, right? Things happen outside of the spectrum, but what we can do is try to get as much as we can kind of going up front, right? While we're in this process, while we're moving this train, but we don't know where it's going to stop at the end of the day. But we kind of want to just be as much proactive as we can, right? Other HOA expenses, HOA special assessments are usually only charged in the case of unforeseen emergencies where the community needs major repairs, like we stated earlier. Let's say if you need a roof, structural situation. They're separate from typical HOA costs, such as regular dues and plan assessments. As unlike other costs, special assessments usually fall outside the HOA's yearly budget, which we kind of said. It falls outside that budget, those reserve fees, things like that, potentially by a lot. If you're a part of an HOA community, you'll likely be required to pay for special assessments if they arise, even though they weren't planned. So it says special assessments can also refer to a term associated with property taxes and et cetera, but we won't get into that because we're kind of focusing more on the HOA special assessment. So that is the HOA. And let's kind of just say what this person stated in regards to their HOA and them paying their special assessments. Then I'll show you the CCRs, what they kind of look like, and then we'll get out of here, okay? So this person right here said, I just paid off the last of $11,834.51 in HOA special assessments over the last 15 months. Breathing a little easier this morning. Now onto the car note. So again, this was a special assessment that took place. This owner was assessed over 11. They said this just paid off the last of the 11,000. So they were assessed as a special assessment in their whether, I don't know if it was a subdivision in this situation, single family subdivision, a townhome, home subdivision, or a condo building type of unit per se, but the HOA assessed them $11,834.51 bill in regards to fixing something, making some type of repair, and they assessed it. They will assess that to every person in said subdivision and said building to make these repairs happen, because they might not have budget set in place for it, the reserve fund set in place for it. So it's just something that you try to get. Yeah, sometimes, again, because special assessments can happen, they can be unforeseen too. But if we know prior to getting, again, if you know this prior, then we can kind of set you up for success, right? Because typically most people who own a house as a seller, if you're selling it and you live in an HOA, prior to even selling a house, if there's something needing to be repaired, let's say 2 weeks from the day in which you close, you know that, and you know that your HOA sent you a bill in regards to that special assessment. So you can ask the seller. If the seller does not want to be honest and truthful and tell you this, just ask the HOA if they allow you to talk to the HOA. Like I said, I reached out to the last HOA. They were friendly enough. I asked them, were there any special assessments coming? They said no. I said, again, you foresee anything? She said, as of right now, no. So again, they can't tell you something that they don't foresee. So if it's not coming, they're not going to tell you that. But if they do know it's coming, they will tell you that, and you should get that information. All right. So last thing I'll show you guys is this, what these CCRs and these bylaws and everything kind of look like these articles that you should get. Again, if you're an HOA, you want to kind of get these documents. So I don't know if you guys can see it. So let me go up here real quick. So these are called the CCRs, and this is what typically comes with an HOA. This is one of my clients' CCRs. So I'm gonna try to skim through it because their name is not in here, but the subdivision is. I'm gonna try to skim through it real quick because I don't want them to be watching me like, "Man, you sure my business?" But I'm not showing their business. It's just what your CCRs look like. So the declaration of covenants, restrictions, conditions, and all that stuff. So this was amended and restated. So they amended it and they restated it. Oh, their subdivision was right there, so you saw it. This was like the articles right here inside the CCRs. It can be pretty lengthy, depending on your subdivision with the HOA. So you do want to try to read as much as you can that pertains to you. Right here, it kind of breaks down the things like dwelling size requirements, use of lots, prohibited activities, nuisances. So let's go to dwelling size requirements, and let's go down here. So let's go to, what is it, 7. We're just going to do something real quick. So you'll see it'll give you like the right here, the day on which it was, the declaration is made the 19th day of May, 2006. So we'll go down. This is the article. It kind of breaks down like the article of a corporation, association, board of directors, bylaws, different things like that. So let's go down. Let me see. Do we have everything in here? Sorry, y'all. I want to see if we have everything. Don't leave now. Don't leave now. What Elaine said, she said, great information. I'm always learning. Thank you. Thank you. I try to teach as much as I can. Again, my goal, like I said, is to educate and advocate. And I try to do my best. And sometimes, we people, so sometimes I'll fall short, but there's always other great realtors on YouTube that'll give you some wonderful information. Christina Smallhorn, Jackie Baker, Jen Sylvester, living in Omaha with David Matney, Joe Pareco, I think that's how he's name. He's in California. And these wonderful other channels to look at. So let's see, I'm trying to go down here to before we get out of here. Okay, duties and power. So it says administration, duties and power. Duties and power. The duties and powers of the association shall be those set forth. People are texting me. And governing documents together with those reasonably implied to the effective purposes of association. I'm trying to do where we can go down to property. All funds received in title of properties. I want to go down to some of the regulations stuff. Let's go down. Is that 7? I think it was 7 here. Okay, here we go. So let's kind of dive into some of the things you might see inside the HOA, the CCRs, architectural approval. So sometimes there's an architectural person in the HOA that approves things that you can do to your house. If you're in a subdivision with a single family home or townhouse, says to preserve the architectural and adhesive appearance of the property, no construction or of any nature whatsoever shall be commenced or maintained by any owner with respect to or affecting the exterior appearance of any dwelling located on any lot or with respect to any other portion of the property, including without limitation the construction of installation of sidewalks, driveways, parking lots, decks, patios, courtyards, swimming pools, tennis courts, greenhouses, playhouses, walls, fences, exterior lights, what is it? Sculpture, home addition. So it's so funny. It's like my seller who lived in this particular subdivision, they didn't really go through their CCRs. So he had built actual a porch structure in his backyard, and he didn't realize that it said that you can't do that according to your HOA without, of course, getting approval. Like if the board said so-called approved it, then they say, we're making a special what is it? Jesus. Basically making it okay for you to place a deck or patio in the back of your yard, then you were not supposed to do it. But he did it. I don't know if they fined him or gave him a fine or something, and he paid it, and then they just let it go. So you want to read through these things. So that's a little bit. That's not the whole thing. I don't want to read through all this because I want to keep you guys here tonight. It says like limitations, construction, or alterations in accordance with plans and specifications approved by the ATC pursuant to provisions of this article shall commence and shall be substantially completed within the time period specified and approved in the application. Where was we at? Oh, right here, dwelling size and requirements. So sometimes there are some dwellings of like the houses, like the requirements of what size it can be on the lots and different things like that. So it says the enclosed heated living area exclusive of garages, carports, porches, terraces, bulk storage, and basement area, whether or not finished, of dwellings constructed on lots shall contain not less than 2,000 square feet. No dwelling or other building shall be constructed on any lot which exceeds 3 stories in height. So you get these different restrictions that use a lot. So I don't want to read all this, but again, the purpose of that is to make sure you guys, if you're buying an HOA community, ask your realtor as a buyer, say, hey, can you ask the seller to can you ask the listing agent to ask the seller to provide us with the CCRs, the bylaws, the articles of incorporation in regards to the HOA, just so you know what you're kind of getting into. You can kind of be, again, proactive, not reactive. You don't want to buy into an HOA subdivision and learn that you want to, like, let's say you want to add on to the house and they're like, well, no, we're not allowing people to add on to their house. So you kind of want to know what you're doing, or you might want to say, I want to pull a pool in my backyard. I know some HOAs that say, no, we don't allow for a pool in your backyard. So it's a lot of different things that come in HOA communities. Again, there can be pros, there can be cons. If you're someone that does not like to kind of follow said things and you want to kind of do what you want to do with your house, you might be better off without it outside of HOA. But those are some things that kind of, again, be proactive, not reactive about. But I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Again, have a Merry Christmas, wonderful Christmas Eve as well. This live again was about things to try to avoid when buying real estate. So we kind of took people's scenarios that are real scenarios that are happening, whether in Facebook groups I'm a part of or online, and scenarios in which I personally have been through. And we just wanted to kind of go further in depth and explore around it and try to find out how we can be proactive, not reactive, and avoid these things when buying real estate, right? We want to put you in a good situation, not a bad situation. Thank you for working on the holidays. We appreciate you. No problem. Thank you, Lauren, for joining me. I appreciate you as well. Have a happy holiday. Enjoy your time. My next house, I really don't want an HOA only because of the restrictions. Yeah, most people don't want an HOA. I always tell people there are pros and cons of an HOA. Yes, there are pros and cons. I tell people the one thing is that I know sometimes typically when people are in these highfalutin or high costly subdivisions, a lot of people will want an HOA because they're like, okay, well, if I'm behind a gated community and my house costs $1 million, I don't want people to be parking their cars on the grass, or I don't want people to park their cars like and my one friend's in the HOA subdivision where you can't park your cars on the sidewalks and stuff. So a lot of people don't want things like that. They feel like it kind of makes the neighborhood look tacky. It might kind of bring down property values and different things like that. So that's like the good thing of HOAs. Also, HOAs could limit possible rental restrictions. So if investors want to buy into said subdivision, an HOA could say, no, we're not allowing for any investors to buy in here at all. There's a limit to amount of investors that can buy, 10%, 20%. Maybe you can only 4 investors can own at one time in the subdivision. So there are some pros to HOAs, and then there's cons too, right? There's cons in which they say you might not be able to do this with the structure of the house, or you can't. Like I know I saw some lady talking about how the HOA was firing her because they didn't want people's garage door open. So there's pros and cons to it all. But yeah, so you just got to figure out what's best for you. Again, if you are going to buy into an HOA, just get those CCRs, get those bylaws, and read those articles of incorporation. But nonetheless, again, thank you guys for joining me. If you are watching a replay of this video, please comment below. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And if I can help you guys in any way, you can always reach out to me. My email is below. It is dclarktherealtor@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and click that like button, y'all, so we can kind of disseminate this video throughout these YouTube streets. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. And I will see you guys on Sunday. We'll be back at 6:30 p.m. with Ask a Lender. Our lender, Dimitri, will be joining us live again. So if you guys have any questions around lending, financing, loans, you should join us on Sunday, 6:30 p.m. because he'll be back on here to answer your questions. All right. So have a wonderful Christmas Eve once again. And I will see you guys Sunday. All right. Bye-bye.